Billy, in my conversations, awareness, I am impressed, maybe depressed, by the confluence of scientists, theologians, philosophers talking about this being the end time. What do you make of that?
Well, it's a scary world. We have enormous power to do harm. The possibility of the rapid spread of infections all around the world. We've been through a century of dramatic change and are looking at another century of dramatic change, probably. So there are reasons to think that. I would frame it in terms of evolution. Humans represent a profound change in evolution. We've had millennia of hundreds of millions of years of Darwinian evolution. And now humans come along and we get this new thing called Lamarckian evolution.
Acquired characteristics.
Are passed on to the next generation. So my children didn't have to reinvent the wheel, and they didn't have to reinvent the microprocessor. They didn't have to reinvent the Bible or Shakespeare. They acquired those, inherited those, and that becomes part of their legacy. And they're not directly genetically related to any of the people that created those things. So that's a very dramatic and radical change in evolution. It becomes literal Lamarckianism when humans begin to embark upon large-scale genetic engineering. So, which is where we're going very quickly.
Now, some scientists would point to this generation, because of all of this, as having a real danger for human annihilation. And at the same time, large numbers of religious groups, people believe in some sense that we're in the time of some dramatic transformation in a theological, in a God sense, interventions. It's not isolated to, some sects of Christianity, but it's fairly broad thoughts.
And it's probably linked to our ability to adapt to dramatic change on some level. So I think when you feel too much change too quickly, the insecurity that comes out of that, I think people are more compelled to fundamentalist or delusional interpretations that are ultimately misanthropic. I find it disturbing that the most popular book in the United States is the Left Behind series by LaFay. I just find that disturbing. It's a dangerous situation.
What does it say when
we should have at least 4 or 5 billion more years of human history ahead of us?
But what does it say when so many people believe that this is the end time? And it's not just religious people; it's scientists who look at the confluence of what we're doing in various kinds of technologies that's all coming together in this rapid escalation.
Well, it's not the first time that people have believed in the end time, number one. That's a recurrent theme. And so I want to think about why these periods of enthusiasm about the end of the universe, the end of history, keep reoccurring. And so that's my first response. But my response to the scientist might also be, you live in a Christian civilization. Well, you've absorbed some of the apocalypse of Christianity. I think terrible, terrible things could happen to humanity in the decades to come. Terrible things, an enormous amount of suffering that could be avoided. For instance, in say nuclear war. But I don't think nuclear war or global warming or any of these things are going to wipe out humans. And they're certainly not going to wipe out the cockroaches. So life is resilient. It will go on. And the meaning of life on a certain level is never about longevity. It's never about longevity. If the meaning, we're all going to die. And if and sooner or later, the earth as a whole is going to expire. And the sun will expire. The universe will expire, perhaps. Whatever the meaning of life is, it's not just about the future. It's perhaps more about the present.